This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather Ho, there's Jeff Cutter Devin. Welcome you to the Sports Catastrophe Birthday Boy. And the birthday boy for today, July 29th, was a great Canadian-born player. He was a hockey player for both Detroit and Chicago. He scored 800 points in his Hockey Hall of Fame career, won the Art Ross Trophy, won 4 Stanley Cups. He was pretty good and all that. But people remember him for him being on his name now being on the trophy for the MVP that is awarded by the Players Association, not by the media that votes for the Hart Trophy for MVP, but for Players MVP. And in fact, he helped the NHL turn into a Players Association and trying to fight for equal rights and all that. It was a pivotal role to improve the lives of NHL players. His name was Ted Lindsay, who was born July 29, 1925, in Renfrew, Ontario. Renfrew was known for its Stanley Cup win in the 1910s, once it was named a Challenge Cup. His father, Bert Lindsay, was a goalie for Renfrew, Victoria, and the Toronto Arenas. Ted would play amateur hockey in Kirkland Lake up in Northern Ontario before joining the St. Michael's Majors in Toronto, possibly being a Toronto player because, the Leafs farm system had the Majors and the other team. I can't think of it right off the top of my head. But anyway, he played in the Memorial Cup for Oshawa in 1944 and won the title. His performance in the OHL led to Detroit having an invitation for him to try out with the team. And of course, this is the pre-draft days. So in 1944, he accepted at age 19. It was weird how he would play amateur in Toronto, but yet play for Detroit. Anyway, he was part of the production line, a nickname for the Detroit scoring line based on the fact that Detroit was known for their auto making. So he would play left wing, Lindsay would, with center Sid Abel and the great Gordie Howe right wing. Lindsay was pretty good and all that. Although small in stature at 5'8" compared to most players, he was known for being terrible tag for his toughness. His rough play would cause the NHL to develop penalties for elbowing and kneeing, making sure that players could not hit with their elbows and knees for rough play. However, in 1950, he did win the Art Ross Trophy for leading scorer in the NHL with 78 points, winning the Stanley Cup. Over the next 5 years, he helped Detroit win 3 more titles, including their last Stanley Cup for 42 years in 1955. Lindsay was actually the first player to lift the Stanley Cup and skate around the rink with it. Usually it was just on a table or something, or just some fancy presentation. That was it. Anyway, Lindsay would actually attend the pension plan meeting as the representative of the Red Wing players, but would find out that the plan was kept secret. Later that year, when he attended a promotion with football and baseball players, he found out that conditions in the other sports leagues were much better. He was introduced to the lawyers of the players of the other leagues and was convinced that through a players' association, the players' conditions could be improved. Of course, this was when the teams would own their players for their entire careers, practically meaning that you play for your team in your career, and the only way you can get out of it is by being traded. The players wanted a minimum salary and a pension plan just in case something went wrong. Players were earning a pittance, and a lot needed summer jobs to make a living, and team owners were getting rich with sold-out games and all that. Superstars of the 1950s would actually earn less than $25,000 a year, and when their playing days were over, they had nothing to fall back on and had to accept whatever work they could to survive. So that was that. However, Lindsay would join up with Doug Harvey of the Habs to have a small group to organize the first NHL Players Association. In secret, all the players were contacted and asked for support to form an association, not a union. They just wanted an association. Support was unanimous. Unfortunately, though, there was a lot of backlash from the owners themselves and all that. Many fellow players were actually ended up being benched or sent to obscurity in the minor leagues. But then Lindsay and Harvey didn't give up and would make sure that a union could win the demands and set up a schedule to be certified. In a defiant gesture, the Leafs and Red Wings were targeted for certification votes. Montreal's ownership was not opposing a union. Toronto's consulate was adamantly against it because of a lack of loyalty and all that. Anyway, the 4 U.S. teams had been controlled or under obligations to the North Syndicate, even Boston. Despite Smythe's efforts, the Leafs unanimously voted to organize. Detroit organized, but the more Norths would fight back. And practically every team just traded away any ringleaders they could, all that. So anyway, Lindsay was stripped of his captaincy and then was traded to the Chicago Blackhawks alongside Glenn Hall, among other players. The other teams would do the same. The Leafs would trade Jimmy Thompson to Chicago. Chicago, the worst of the 6 teams in the NHL, would practically get the benefit of these players and all that. Jack Adams would plant rumors about Lindsay and would defame him and all that. The Red Wings would reject the union. Doug Harvey would be traded from Montreal to the Rangers, but that was in 1962. So Harvey lasted longer with Montreal. Lindsay would initiate an antitrust lawsuit against the league, saying that it's been a monopoly since 1926. The players had a strong case because of the North Syndicate's operations, basically owning or getting influence on all 4 American NHL teams. And Frank Calder would have, as president of the NHL, efforts to take down the American Hockey Association. And practically the North arenas were hiding revenues through ticket scalping and underreporting ticket sales. Rather than go to court, the NHL decided to settle in February 1958 to agree to most of the players' demands, although the pension plan was not exposed until 1989. A permanent union would be formed in 1967. Anyway, there were a lot of problems and all that. But in 1958, the NHL promised a $7,000 minimum wage, an increase in pension benefits, increased hospitalization benefits, a limit on the number of exhibition games, and the player should be the sole judge of his physical fitness to play after injury. So anyway, that'd be huge. CBC actually produced a movie called Net Worth that depicted Lindsay's battle to create the NHL Players Association. It was a good movie with Al Waxman, soon to be dead, Al Waxman, beating Jack Norris. Jack Adams, sorry. Anyway, the actions of the Red Wings would actually hinder their on-race record. Jack Adams would finally be fired in 1967. 61, sorry. Lindsay would actually play for 3 years with the Hawks till retiring in 1960. And then at age 39, he was enticed by Sid Abel, who was coach and GM of the Red Wings, to come back and play for the Red Wings. He played 1 season and helped Detroit become the best team in 1965, although the Habs would win the cup. So anyway, the Red Wings couldn't protect Lindsay in the interleague draft of 1965. Once upon a time, the NHL had an interleague draft that players would be left unprotected and other teams could draft from that thing. He wished to retire as a Red Wing, and he would plan to be hidden on the retired list in anticipation of having him return for the last hurrah season the next year. However, the league would veto it, and Lindsay would have to stay retired. In 1,068 games, he scored 851 points, playing 133 playoff games with 96 points. He was an 8-time All-Star. All that. In 1966, he was inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he decided to refuse to attend the men-only ceremony since he was not allowed to bring his wife and children. The NHL relented the next year and said that they could do it. with women to attend. Detroit would finally retire as number 7 in 1991, which was a long time coming. That Lindsay was actually named GM of the Red Wings in 1977, saying that huge. So once he became GM, he was in TV commercials promoting the slogan, "Aggressive hockey is back in town." It was named NHL's Second of the Year because he brought the Red Wings back to the playoffs for the first time in 9 years. He was actually named head coach late in the 79-80 season, and by 80-81 he was the head coach. But he started 3-14-3 and was canned. He had a foundation formed in 2001 to fund research into a cure for autism. And as of 2019, there were $3.4 million to fund autism research. And in 2010, the NHLPA says that the Lester B. Pearson Award will be called the Ted Lindsay Award. The Players Association MVP. You don't have to win the Hart Trophy and all that. So, anyway, Lindsay would die in his home in Oakland, Michigan, March 4th, 2019, at the age of 93. But yeah, he did a lot for Detroit and Chicago. Played over 1,000 games in the Canada Sports Hall of Fame. Memorial Cup winner, Art Ross Trophy winner for scoring. 4-time Cup champ, 50, 52, 54, and 55. And his number 7 was retired by the Red Wings. And practically it was his dogged efforts that brought the NHL to finally agree to a Players Association and better lives for players. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do